Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Through the Fire. I am your host, Ryan Wickline, and today we are joined by a very special guest. He is an executive coach, Mr. Andrew Hinkelman. How you doing today, Andrew?
Great, Ryan. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. I'm excited to have you on here and kind of talk about leadership and leadership development.
Awesome. Fun and exciting topic.
Yeah, I think it's probably like my second favorite topic behind like mindset and everything, because I find it fascinating how everybody leads different, but they all get the job done.
Yeah. Well, and there's kind of unlimited subtopics below there, right?
Yeah. All right. The number one question the audience probably wondering, who is Andrew Hinkelman?
Who is Andrew Hinkelman? I wonder that a lot myself. Usually on the weekends, late at night. But well, right now, Andrew Hinkelman is a small business owner, executive coach, technical consultant, a little bit of fractional chief technology officer work. My background in the corporate space was always running engineering teams, managing other leaders, and I was a chief technology officer for a while at an investment manager. So long corporate career, and building a business for the past 7 years.
Nice. How challenging was your rise through the corporate world to become CTO?
It was pretty challenging and took a long time. And, I had to get kicked in the teeth a few times, which is good for building a little bit of humility, right? I was like most people, the first 10 years of my career, I thought I walked on water. I thought I had all the answers and didn't really care too much about other people. And then the promotion stopped, and getting more money, getting put on good projects stopped. All that stuff just kind of went away, and I had to look in the mirror. So that was like, I had to do the work, right? Like I had to look inside and see, like, what was I doing wrong here? So that was a big part of the journey.
How much did your stagnation happen because you weren't developing yourself anymore?
In hindsight, it was 100%. 100%. At the time, like most people, I thought, I just have to get another certification, right? Well, if I get a cybersecurity certification, like people will, finally see how great I am, or maybe I need a PMP certification or whatever. In hindsight, it was really like, what kind of relationships are you building at work? Do you only go to other people when you need something from them? Or do they actually know you and trust you? So, I had to really focus on personal development, but at the time it was like all just felt random at the time. When you go through those things, it feels random.
Yeah. What would you say probably the biggest change you had to make?
Well, I remember really, really clearly that there were a couple people at work that I really didn't like. And I'm talking about like when I was like in my mid 30s. So this is a while ago, mid 30s. There were a couple people like I would avoid. Like I would walk the long way, to get a cup of coffee from the kitchenette to avoid them. And it started to become really clear that was holding me back, because there was something about it. It was like, oh, I don't like that person. Sure enough, that person was someone that I had to build a relationship with to get this project over the finish line, or, something like that. But most of the time, I kind of figured out that if I could just be a little bit more myself and just care a little less intensely about every single little thing, just relax a little bit, things kind of started to fall into place. We try so hard, right? Work's so important, But if you identify with it too much, it's possible to overcare where you get kind of like tight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You went through a phase of burnout. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, and it's kind of a natural segue from what I was just talking about, which is, when you really identify with your job and your title and your company and all the work, you can overcare, right? You're giving too much of yourself all the time. Oh, someone emailed me at 8 p.m. I better get back to them, like if I just work more on the weekend, I can catch up and all that, over time, you're not kind of, there's this thing about filling the bucket, filling yourself up, keeping yourself strong. It's all sounds simplistic, but turns out a lot of it's true, right? So if you're not keeping yourself strong, rested, and all that, at some point you're going to be fried and you're going to stop caring. So that was my journey. But the interesting thing, I think, for your audience, Ryan, might be that a lot of times you have no idea you're in burnout. You might feel tired and exhausted, and someone might bring it up to you like, hey, are you burning out or something? Like, it's easy to be deep into burnout and have no idea.
Yeah, I've been through some phases of that before, and like would take a couple weeks off and come back, and I'd be good for about another month and just be done again.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I bring up a lot to people. So if you come into Monday and you're already exhausted, or if you take a week off and it doesn't seem to help, you're pretty deep.
Yeah.
What did you do from there?
I kind of walked away from doing that. Like I was coaching athletes and I walked away. I was done. I mean, I took like a couple weeks off, went back, started training heavy again for about another month. And I mean, I was just exhausted. My
Yeah.
body and mind were just fried. And I took it as a way of God telling me, hey, you're done with this.
Yeah. That's what it takes a lot of time. Like a lot of times just resting and maybe trying to do less work is not enough. Like sometimes
Yeah.
you got to walk away.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured out too. It was just time to walk away from it because, like you said, I was giving everything to everybody else. Phone calls late at night with parents talking about their kids and everything. I was like, man, it was just nonstop putting out fires for everybody else.
Yeah. Especially if you can't see a way to put some boundaries around it. If you've given all your time away, it's really hard in your job, in your current job, to then say, hey, I'm not going to be in before 9 a.m. and I'm not answering messages after 5 p.m. Like it's a difficult boundary to set once you've already, opened up every minute of your time.
Yeah. What was probably the biggest lesson you learned from burnout?
Well, that's kind of the core of what I usually work with people on, and that is what I call self-leadership. So you can't be a great manager, supervisor, leader until you learn how to lead yourself. And by that, I mean, what does it take for you to feel amazing? What do you need to do for yourself to be able to show up and really listen, really be present, to be bold? Well, it's probably getting the right amount of sleep, working out, eating well, taking care of your mindset. All of those things, you got to do those first. So to me, it became non-negotiable. Like that comes first. Everything else will come from that. And like for me personally, that's the way it has to work.
Yeah. Like what you did to explain it to everybody, it was like, I'm taking everything I have and filling up everybody else's cup, but none of you guys have what I need to fill up any of mine.
Yeah. Yeah. What about me? Where am I? You know? And it's especially in any kind of job that you really, really care about, you can lose yourself. It's really easy to like lose self-care, lose a bit of your identity. Hey, I used to go mountain biking 4 days a week. I don't have time for that, And then you bring in like, hey, family, kids, all that. It's easy. It's easy to get kind of trapped in a world where you don't have time for yourself.
Yeah. What inspired you to become an entrepreneur and executive coach?
Well, coming off of a phase of burnout in my job, I was really looking for what's next. And part of what I realized was I liked the people part of what I was doing and managing. And I had, lost a lot of passion for just talking tech and engineering and all the meetings. So, I asked around a lot. I spent, probably 6 to 12 months just talking to people, just having conversations, people in my network, who should I, and then those lead to other people, like asking other people that I knew that were maybe coaches or consultants working for themselves, doing other roles outside of a typical corporate space. And I wanted to put a big kind of bet on myself and just say, look, I need to do something very different. And if I can take care of myself, then I'm willing to kind of put all the chips in the middle of the table. And by the way, what's the worst thing that can happen, right? I have to go get another job. That's not that bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I will say that it can be incredibly scary, and there are ups and downs when you're building a business. So it's not for people that are averse to that.
Yeah. Do you regret your decision?
Never. No. Not one bit. And the little secret in there is that it is actually a lot more of a personal growth journey. Yes, you have to do everything. Yes, you're the chief marketing officer, chief revenue officer, chief technology officer. Like you're doing all that. But at the same time, you have to look yourself in the mirror. Like if you're a bad boss to yourself,
No one to blame but yourself, pretty much.
Yeah.
What types of services do you provide?
So my company provides one-on-one executive coaching, team coaching, and group coaching. And a lot of the group coaching that we do, it looks a bit like training. So we'll do things like audience-focused communication and sort of management excellence sort of trainings, but we do it in a way that brings in a cohort of people where people share experiences, and then there's a lot of training that goes along with it and the exercises in between and everything. So it's not like a bunch of PowerPoint slides. We keep it really, really interactive. But, I come alongside CTOs and vice presidents, tech CEOs, and help them build their bench of leaders in their organization.
Nice. What would you say is probably the biggest challenge a lot of your clients face?
Well, one of the biggest ones is for sure the state of all of our mindsets, which is incredibly distracted. So, we're all in this world of distraction, and it looks a lot like jumping from one thing to the other. So most people have a really hard time doing what I would call deep work. And I'm gonna steal that from Cal Newport, who's a professor of computer science at Georgetown University. But the point is that like it's really, really hard for people to just block out the noise and be focused for 2 hours, 3 hours and get something strategic done. Even at the most senior levels, like I would say people that I coach that are 25 years into their career have just as hard time with it as 30-year-olds.
Yeah. So what's your recommendation to keep them in the moment and block out them distractions?
I tell people to stop with the inputs. So let's say, Ryan, like you're going to go work out later. Are you listening to a playlist on Spotify or a podcast?
Yeah, probably YouTube.
Or if you're driving somewhere, you probably listen to something, whether it's Spotify or who knows, NPR, whatever. I tell people to just stop, like turn it off. Because your mind needs to digest, really. And I think that's an easy way to think about it. Like you let your mind digest, especially as you come home. You know, a lot of people work remotely, but if you do work in an office, when you commute home, whether it's bus, train, driving, whatever, let your mind just work through the day and it'll naturally calm down. So I think the first step is stop putting so much stuff in, right? Like let your mind naturally sort of calm down.
Interesting. I've tried that a couple times, and sometimes I just need the noise.
I know. Yeah. I mean, the reality of the way our brains work is, right, we get used to the stimulation, but we can get used to calming down as well. That's why this, being able to do strategic deep work for a block of time is so hard, because even if you turn all your notifications off and you're not on your laptop or whatever, your brain's gonna be like, oh crap, I forgot something. Oh, this, I got it. It takes a while to unwind that.
Yeah. You've coached hundreds of leaders. What's one universal pattern you see regardless of title or intelligence?
Most people around us are incredibly lonely. And it might surprise you if you look around your company and you see, maybe your CEO or people in senior roles and think of them as being lonely because they seem like they're talking and meeting with people all the time. But there's something going on in our larger society and culture where most people are incredibly lonely and they don't get good feedback. So most people are just looking for deeper connection. So, to the extent that you can sit down and actually be present with someone and listen to them, you're going to build a stronger relationship with them.
Yeah. I can kind of see that too, where when you go talk to somebody, like no one really connects. It's just kind of small talk.
And a lot of times, if they sense that you are present and you are listening, they just kind of go. Like they could be talking to a wall a lot of times, and you're kind of like going, like, is this person going to ask me a question? Probably not, because they haven't talked to someone. No one's listened to them for a long time, and they're going to make the most of it.
See, I'm kind of the opposite. When people approach me with all the small talk, I'm just like, I gotta go. I don't have time for this. My schedule's too hectic to sit here and talk about nonsense.
I know. It's autopilot, right? Would you say? Yeah. I mean, that's what happens. We're all on autopilot, and it takes being really present to break out of it.
Yeah. How does a leader stay authentic to themselves under the pressure and scrutiny of everyone else?
Being authentic to yourself is a little bit of an inside job, because you need to have pretty good self-awareness of what matters. So if treating people the right way is something that matters a lot to yourself, you're in like a firestorm, there's maybe like an issue going on in the company, an outage, whatever it is. You, you'll see people doing things differently. It's staying attuned to like your version, your story, your narrative, the thing that makes sense to you. It's getting in tune to that and knowing what it is before it matters. So when you are in line at the supermarket, or working out or talking to family members, talking to your neighbors, like what is the thing? What are the things that matter to me? So, using other times when you're not stressed to really tune in and know what those things are. Like, what does it mean to be authentic when, you're with your neighbors? Low impact, low stress environments.
I think it's also important to kind of know yourself before you can actually kind of lead other people too.
For sure. Yeah. And you probably saw this, dealing with parents and all those kinds of things. It's like sometimes you feel like you want to be a little bit more harsh, or they need a different kind of message, or one parent listens really well and the other doesn't. And you always have to kind of flex it and sort of modulate and adjust. But knowing what matters to you definitely comes first. Like you gotta know what it is. Otherwise, you're just doing stuff based on what you see around you. I mean, I tried that for a long time. I just have to learn to yell better.
How'd that go for you? Did that work for you?
Never worked for me. I don't know if it worked for the people I was mimicking, but maybe it did. Maybe it worked for them. Never worked for me.
Me either.
Yeah.
If leadership is a form of emotional labor, how do you personally replenish that energy?
For me personally, it's kind of comes back to this self-leadership piece. Is like, I can't be a good manager to you. I can't be a good parent to my children. I can't be a good manager to you. I can't be the one who steps up in the big meeting and says the uncomfortable thing if I'm always a little tight and a little small and a little tired and not ready and all of those things. This is a little bit of a silly story, but I used to go see the Seahawks a lot on Sundays, down the road, and it was always shocking to me how wasted people would get on Sundays. I was like, "Don't you work tomorrow?" Well, it was like, just kind of don't care. Like every Sunday was like the Super Bowl, and if you think about Mondays, there's a reason why a lot of people are dragging on Mondays, because like they don't treat themselves well. So, you got to know what those things are that you need in order to show up at your best if you really care about it. I mean, there's people who do care and try to make sure they're ready coming into the week.
Yeah. What did you kind of do to your routine to kind of keep you refreshed?
Yeah, I mine has evolved over the years. I used to run a lot more. I used to run every morning almost. So first thing, get out the door, even in the dark, in the rain. Now my morning is a little bit more focused on getting work that I care about done first. So the short answer to your question is that I prioritize the stuff that's most strategic to me first thing in the morning. before the emails, before the phone, before all the meetings, all those kinds of things. So I don't start off with my phone. I don't start off with email, any of that. I'm not doing other people's work. I'm not replying to other people until mid to late morning. And I have a little bit of a luxury to be able to do that. But even when I was in the corporate space, I would just block my mornings until 10 a.m. so I could get strategic work done.
Man, that's kind of interesting. So does that keep you kind of a little bit more refreshed? So you don't have to be bombarded with other people's problems?
Totally. And another corollary to that is no same day meetings. Like my team knew, like if you wanted to piss Andrew off, schedule a same day meeting, right? Because that's a lack of planning on your part. And I shouldn't have to be the one that gets disrupted because you didn't plan, right? It's not my fault. You should have been thinking ahead. So, you got to know what your work is, what's strategic, what's valuable. Maybe it's being home with your young kids, right? It doesn't have to be your work and your professional job, but you got to know what you want and you got to know what's valuable.
Yeah. How important is emotional intelligence for leaders?
Well, I'm going to give you a contrarian answer to that, and that is not important at all, because no one walks around saying I need emotional intelligence. But the fact is that it's 100,000% critical to every single one of them. It's just that it's not something that people walk around looking for. The thing that people really, really want is, hey, I want to be able to ask a better question. I want to be able to say the right thing that motivates my team. I want to be able to to know how people are dealing with challenges and be able to read the room. That's all emotional intelligence. So great leaders are happy leaders, and they tend to have really strong emotional intelligence skills, even if they don't think of them that way, because emotions are contagious. People pick up on your emotion. It's really, really critical. If you're angry in a meeting, even on Zoom, even if people are working remotely, people pick up on it. Your body language, your tone of voice, the word choice, you'll see the whole mood of the meeting will change. It's crazy.
Yeah. That's one thing I talk to with athletes a lot about is body language. It's like your competition can sense when you're mad or when you're tired. I said it's contagious.
There's research around it. It's emotional contagion is a real thing, and you can't be a good manager leading a team if you're not tuning into that. And one of the places where that comes in is where one person on your team is there's always like a negative person, and they will talk first, right? And then the next person will be like, yeah. And then suddenly everyone's like, that's exactly it, right? But what's your job? Well, maybe you can be the one who says, you know what, this was a tough week and this thing was kind of crappy that we went through, but we made it and we learned some good stuff.
Yeah.
That's what leaders do.
How would you suggest that someone goes about starting to develop emotional intelligence, the skills they need for it?
Yeah. Emotional intelligence is a couple different things. One is developing your vocabulary around the way you think about and the way that you label emotions internally. What I mean by that is, are you angry or are you just a little bit frustrated? Are you resentful or are you jealous? And what that does is it lets you start to sort of pinpoint and be a little smarter about what's actually going on with you. And it's also building your self-awareness. So that's one thing. And another really important thing is mindfulness. And that's a little bit of it can be a little bit of a obscure or confusing phrase, but what I'm really talking about is the ability to be present and not distracted. Because you can be present and aware of what's going on around you and inside you. And you're going to start to pick up on things like, what's bothering me? Where am I right now? I'm kind of pissed because what's his name sent me that email that was pretty rude, but it's not that important and I'm going to let it go and I'm not going to worry about it in 30 minutes. So it's like, where am I? You start to sort of tune in a little bit more to yourself.
Yeah. I like how you kind of just like tone down the words, the wording of, hey, instead of I'm not angry, I'm just frustrated. So it kind of changes your perspective in your mind that you're not like so angry, you know what I'm saying? That you're not so ready to blow up.
Yeah, and an example you might hear too is people talk about public speaking, right? And being the feeling of being nervous before you stand up and speak in front of people actually feels really similar to being excited. But if you can kind of go, I think I'm actually excited to do this, then your whole demeanor changes. Your body language can change. You're not getting tight. You're not being fearful. Suddenly you can focus more on your audience. If you're excited to talk in front of people, it does feel internally like nervous, raw energy, but it allows you to kind of open up and be more positive about it.
Yeah. So you worked in the engineering space where not everybody that works in that field is very, like more relationship oriented. So how were you able to cut through that and to build more relationships?
Yeah, I was maybe always a little bit more of an anomaly in technical organizations where I was always really curious about what the business was doing. Why are we here? How do we make money? Why do our customers choose us versus some other company? So I kind of thought of myself as a translator between technology and the business in either direction. And truly just curiosity. So I didn't have any issues with going to like a marketing person and just saying like, why do we do this? How does this work? I, I love a dumb question. To me, like, that's great. I'm going to ask dumb questions all day long. Like, I'm not trying to be the smartest person in the room. I just want to understand what we're doing, how all the pieces fit together, kind of systems thinking ish. But the real answer there is that like I was just curious about the business, and like, how do we make money? How does the work that's happening here in the back end help the front end?
Yeah. How's it all connect and
Yeah,
thrive
yeah,
together?
yeah, and why does it matter, right? Because that's really what you're kind of getting at is like all this stuff over here might seem completely unrelated to the experience of a customer, but it must not be because the CEO is paying for it. So how does it all stitch together?
Yeah. What emotional blind spots show up with technical leaders?
Whew, that's a long list, right? Funny thing about working with technical leaders is a lot of the stereotypes that we all know and love are a lot of them are accurate. So the trajectory of a really good technical person has to do with coming from an area of education and expertise and building like serious technical chops, and then suddenly you have to care about people, and it's a completely different job. So that, the biggest blind spot is probably that at some point in your career, no one told you. Most of the time no one tells you, and it's usually like after you've been a manager for a little while, you're like, wait, nobody told me this. Like the people part is the thing. It's incredible. It's like most companies just shove a great technical person into a manager role, and they're like, they just expect them to do well. It's crazy. You would never do it the other way around.
Yeah, because leadership's all about relationships
And building trust,
right? Yeah.
If you can figure it out, then then it can be amazing, right? But because someone who can understand technology and speak intelligently about it and build relationships can do a lot. That's a little bit of a magic kind of superpower.
Yeah. When you walk into a tech org that's running on fumes, what are the first diagnostic questions you ask?
Usually has something to do with prioritization. So a lot of those types of organizations just kind of treating people like cogs and treating people like tools. And a lot of it's because there's not the ability at the leadership level to either say no, push back, or set priorities in an effective way. So, I mean, it's kind of a tactical answer, but if everyone is depleted and running on fumes, then there's something above them at their leadership level which isn't working. It could be that their leaders in general like just don't care or don't know, but a lot of it comes down to like, what's the workload? Why are we not taking things off the list when we add new items? So a lot of it has to do with the prioritization.
Yeah. How many times do you see in those organizations that they keep adding and adding, but not subtracting anything from that workload?
Every day, all the time, all the time. And you want to know why? It's because it's easy, right? It's easy and it's lazy. I mean, the easy path there is to just say, do this. When someone comes back and says, well, what shouldn't I do? If I'm going to do that, what am I not going to do? That takes a little bit of effort. Takes someone that, has a little bit more of a spine to kind of step up and ask the question. In a lot of organizations, there's just more and more and more and more and more and more, and they're completely ignorant of capacity. I can't tell you how many people I talk to where the idea of the capacity of the team, what can the team handle, is a completely foreign topic. It's like, how do you manage your team and not know what their capacity is? Even if it, like, you don't need the most amazing Scrum board, Jira board, point system. You don't need, you should be able to manage your capacity through bringing your team together and talking through what's working and what's not, and be able to kind of go, I think we're full, right? I mean,
Yeah.
yes, you can apply metrics and should, but you don't have to act like, well, I'll never know capacity until we can measure every single thing. That's a scapegoat.
Yeah. Fully agree. How can people get a hold of you?
A great way to reach me is through LinkedIn. So just search Andrew Hinkelman. You'll find me. Just send me a connection request. I accept pretty much everyone, unless you're trying to sell me something in some foreign country that requires something, a number with a lot of zeros. And I'll say that there is a link to book some time on my calendar right below my name on my LinkedIn page. And I like to just meet people and give them a taste for what coaching is. So, I offer that to your audience, Ryan. Book some time with me. If you're curious about coaching, we'll just treat it as a coaching session. You'll come away with a couple of insights and get a feel for what coaching looks like. It's just something that I do pretty regularly, free of charge.
Nice. What would you say is probably the biggest thing that you work on people with to start developing them to be leaders?
Well, it is a little bit of it depends on where they're starting from and where they're trying to go. But the most common piece here is starting to trust yourself. So a pretty common scenario is where people have kind of given themselves away and they've lost a bit of their own identity. So a real tangible example is a lot of times I'll ask people what their goals are, and they'll give me the goals for their company, deliver new ERP by July 30th, whatever. But what are your goals? What about you? What's inside there? Are you doing what you want to do, or do you want to open a restaurant in 5 years? Where's you? So I challenge people to answer the question for themselves. Where do you want to be? What are your personal goals? Maybe your goal is, get promoted, make more money, whatever. There's nothing wrong with that, but know what it is,
Do you run across a lot of people that feel like stuck in their career that probably want to walk away, but just scared to?
Yeah, there are a lot of people like that. A lot of times it's a little bit of golden handcuffs. So because I work with a lot of people in technology, even with everything that you hear about lately with AI, still a lot of people that are making a lot of money in technology roles. It's super hard to walk away when, that's a big number for them to replace. So there are a lot of people that, it's kind of run its course. They loved technology for the first 10 years and now they're kind of like thinking about other things, but they don't know how to get there. That's part of the recipe for burnout too.
Yeah. Is there anything we haven't covered that you want to talk about?
I think the only thing that we haven't covered might just be, I just mentioned AI, but what I like to do is kind of bring it a little bit more out into the open a little bit. I think that there's a lot of noise and a lot of hype, and a lot of people are scared, right? I live outside Seattle. I know a lot of people at Microsoft, and Microsoft has gone from a company that was actually getting recognized for how they turned the culture around and became a great place to work with Satya Nadella. And now there's like almost rolling layoffs there. And so that's just one example. It's going on all over the place. And the one thing I'll say about AI for most people is, sure, you need to know how it works. It's good to understand this. But for most of us, we need to just remember that it's a tool. And it's not going to replace a conversation like this. It's not going to replace building a stronger relationship with your partner where you work or a stakeholder or, the people that matter to you. It's not going to replace that. And sort of keep it in perspective. Treat it like it's a tool, but we're already seeing the pendulum come back a little bit lately. And companies are starting to walk back a bit of these grand projections. But it's not a bad thing if we automate a lot of the menial stuff that a lot of, especially like kind of the entry level jobs. You know,
Yeah.
I was in financial services for a while, and we were just hiring interns and recent college grads to just move data through spreadsheets. It's crazy, right? It probably should be automated, right? It's not great for humans. But at the end of the day, the humanity, the emotional intelligence, the relationship is what's going to matter.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I've seen so many people, like even before, like the younger generation, they don't know how to connect with people because it's all more sending messages and social media instead of actual heart-to-heart connections with people.
Yeah. Go outside. Like, go outside, you know, be seen, say hello to people. It's like, you know, it's good for you.
Yeah. All right. Final question. What is one piece of advice you'd like to leave our listeners with about overcoming adversity?
Trust yourself. So whether you just got fired, laid off, you broken up with, whatever it is, you're not going to go finding answers on social media. You're not going to find them on YouTube. You're not going to find it on Netflix. You got to learn to trust your gut, listen to your gut, trust yourself. You know what you need. You just need to figure out how to tune into that radio station that you know your gut's trying to broadcast.
Yeah. Great advice. Well, Andrew, I can't thank you enough for coming on here and sharing your wisdom and insight with all of us.
Ryan, appreciate you having me. It's been a blast. Thank you.
Yep. Well, guys, that's going to be all the time we have here today. Remember, the only way to get what you want is to go through the fire.